Nerd with Attitude here. Today I'd like to cover a topic that is very frequent in the Nibiru community, and that's wormwood. So, what I'm going to do is basically read in a blog that I wrote in January about what I think that wormwood is. I have no label whatsoever. I have no political label. I have no religious label. I am a truth seeker. And I feel that Christianity and the other religions that came in, that it gives paganism a bad name. Paganism is basically any religion that's not the monotheistic religions of Abraham. So it could be anything. Every teaching that was taught before the Bible, everything that people believed, they just stuck it into one word and they make that word seem so horrible. And I don't feel like it is. I don't feel like there is any truth in one book or one religion. I think that we have free will, we have morality, we have these things for a reason, and that is because we are meant to continue to search for the truth. We are not meant to just accept what a man behind a pulpit or a computer screen who calls themselves pastors and teachers. We're not meant to just believe what people say. We are meant to find this on our own. That's what we're meant to do. So this went a lot longer than I expected. I hope you guys actually watched the whole thing. A little bit of background. I grew up in the church. I started singing in the church when I was about 7. Once my mom found out I could sing. By 13, I was the lead singer in the choir. So I traveled all over and sung. My young life and my teenage years were all spent mainly in the church. I grew up in a very small town. I have known the Bible very well, and a few years ago, I'd say about 5 years ago, I started researching history and religion, ancient history and religion. And one thing I do know is that a lot of people don't read the Bible. A lot of people depend on pastors and preachers or whatnot to give them to tell them, what the Bible says. And a lot of people don't really read it. And they don't seem to understand that it's not supposed to be taken literally, even though it tells you it's not supposed to be taken literally. So in January, I wrote a blog called The Great Deception, The Truth About the Collective Delusion of Nibiru and the Obsession with Armageddon. So what I've done, I have it over there on my screen, and I'm going to read it, and I'm going to have some commentary about it. And I know that there is going to be a lot of people who probably won't agree with it, mainly because a lot of the religious people want it to be doom. They want it to be violent, but what people don't realize that the book of Revelation is set up a certain way. There are the seals, there are the churches, and when the seals are broken and the trumpets are blown, as the Bible describes, there is a church and a seal and a trumpet. They all go together, and you have to look at each one to find out what they were trying to say in the Bible, in Revelations, about what was the prophecies of what was supposed to happen. So, like I said, I'm just going to read this, and I'm just going to give some commentary on the way, and maybe you'll agree, maybe you won't, but for me it's pretty obvious that this is what it means. So, here we go. I wrote this on January the 12th of this year. Collective delusion. A collective delusion is the term most commonly used by social scientists to describe the relatively spontaneous spread of false or exaggerated beliefs within a large population of people. The formation of these delusions are usually caused by the media, rumors, religion, or actions of the government, police, or military. The belief of an imminent apocalypse is one of the longest-running collective delusions of mankind. For thousands of years, humanity has feared a coming Armageddon. Why are we so obsessed with thinking our days are numbered? Why are we so willing to bend facts and change the laws of physics in order to fit our delusions? Is it because we feel that it is written? Is it the constant barrage of it in movies and TV? In the world today, there's no shortage of fear. With terrorism, war, and fear of an economic collapse, people are on the edge and on the verge of panic. We all have a beginning and an end. Death cannot be predicted. So why do we allow doomsayers, fearmongers, to convince us that they can? Maybe it's because we fear what we don't know. I see many religious people use this to their advantage, mostly for personal gain. Not just money, but the attention that they receive becomes very addictive. They become a shell of their former selves. Pride causes them to want to seem as if they have unknown knowledge concerning the end of the world, so that people will view them as special or great. They write books and make YouTube videos featuring pseudoscience, which are claims, beliefs, or practices presented as being plausible scientifically, but which are not justifiable by scientific method, and they show easily debunked images. They are contradictory, exaggerated, and unprovable claims. So this is a little bit about myself. Call this debate. I first came across the story of the incoming planet Nibiru in March of 2016 in the form of a YouTube video from WSO. It was very convincing. So convincing that I became extremely obsessed. At the time, I had lost my mother the year before, and I was very depressed. I watched her die, so it was a very traumatic experience. and I was very depressed. And I think, like, a lot of people may think this way, you know, when you have a lot of hurt and pain going on in your life, it's easy to want it to be over, you know, to feel that there's something better after this is what I think drives a lot of people. And at first, I think that that's what I wanted. I wanted it to be over because I missed her so much. I really did. I missed her very much. And I was coming into my own back then, about being an empath as well, and finally accepting the fact and trying to learn and trying to find my own way after years of very hard times, very sad times. So anyway, I joined every Nibiru group on Facebook, and I watched webcams incessantly. I mean, I woke up in the morning, and the first thing I did was pull up the webcams from all over the world and all sky cams. And before I had breakfast, before I did anything, I watched webcams. And I swear I was seeing something. And I became increasingly afraid. And they were saying that it would cause a pole shift and that it would happen very soon. Now, this was March of last year. And they were saying it was going to happen very soon. I became very jumpy, and eventually I did become suicidal. I didn't attempt, but the thought crossed my mind a lot when I thought about the destruction that a pole shift or a planet, you know, coming into our solar system and the damage that it would do, that I didn't feel like I wanted to go through that. I felt like I'd rather, you know, go ahead and get it over with so I wouldn't have to suffer through what I was being told was going to happen. It was very frightening. I could hear a 18-wheeler drive down the street, and you know, you feel the rumbling of it sometimes, and it would make, oh God, is it happening? Is it gonna happen? Well, I'm not normally a very gullible person. I'm a well-educated, investigative researcher, but I admit that in the beginning of this, I did not research. I saw it and I believed it. But that all changed around 2 months later. I became wary of the people I depended on for information and videos of Nibiru. I started seeing pictures of sundogs, bugs, especially spider. And at first, that picture, and everybody, I'm sure everybody knows what I'm talking about, is the Jeff P picture, and it was just red, and it was just there, and I took that camera, and I went back to like 2014, and it was there, and I was like, okay, wait, this doesn't make any sense right here. And I saw that it was a spider. And when I sent Steve Olsen an email, and in the groups that I was in, people just, when I said, okay, I found that this is not a planet, that this is a bug, and I was attacked immediately. Like, the people just started being mean. Like, you can't say that something wasn't what they thought it was. And then not long, I even sent the screenshots of it to Steve Olsen, and I said to him, and I still have the email, and I said to him, I need you to please help me to debunk this, to show people that's not what this is. I thought that, you know, at first that he was a honest man. He seemed that way. And then a few days later, him and Jeff P actually did a video about it. And then I was like, okay, wait a minute. So he knows that that's not what that is, and he doesn't care. So that's when I really, really started questioning, and I decided, okay, you need to put your investigative hat on and figure this out. So he started asking for money. I hadn't seen him ask for money before. He had started asking for money to present other people's pictures, and having guests on his show that said that the planets were bigger than the sun. Samuel Hoffman. That's where Steve completely lost me right there. Even though I kind of still felt like something was out there, he lost me with the Samuel Hoffman thing, because it's impossible, you know. And people might say, no, oh, you know, it's impossible. It's impossible, okay? It's impossible to have planets bigger than the sun, and we don't see them. And then that was the end of my Steve Olsen watching times. And then what I did was I decided to take a break from the webcams and the videos. I got off of the internet for a few days and gave myself a clear head and told myself I needed to look at this scientifically and with doubt, as I've done everything else. So during that time, afterwards, I will posted something from I watched the ISS cam a lot too, and I was convinced that there was something there, and I posted it in a group, and a guy, his name was Denny, I won't give his last name, but he showed me pictures of the sun taken through a telescope, and nothing was there. You know, I knew that if it was there, the telescope should see it. Like if I saw something that day and somebody took a picture with the telescope and nothing was there, then that showed me, okay, those are lens flares. Those are internal reflections. I started doing more research. I joined a group. I met some truthers, and they helped me out, showing me more stuff. And then I took more time off the internet, and then I bought a welding lens. Actually, I got the whole helmet. I got the whole helmet, and I could change the dials on it, the color, the lighter or darker. And every day at sunrise, I watched it. I watched it at when it was noon. I watched it at night. A few times a day, I would just go outside and look, and I didn't see anything. I even saw that internal reflection that a lot of people were showing, and I saw that was Wayne Steiger had a picture that he had took through some type of lens, and there was this supposed planet there. And when I did the welding lens, I saw that, but when you move it, it moved with it. It did not stay in place. I knew it was an artifact. So that's when I knew that it was bull. It was not what, there was nothing there, put it like that. So after that, my own investigation began. I decided that I also wanted to help other people see that there was nothing there, just like people helped me. I like to pay it forward when somebody helped me, and I was in need of help, and I got it. Okay, I may be rambling a little bit here, but I'm getting there. This part is a little bit of the background of the Nibiru Planet X doomsday position, where it came from. A lot of people do know. The idea was first put forward by Nancy Leader, and she was a woman from Wisconsin who claimed that as a young girl, she was contacted by extraterrestrial called the Zetas, and they implanted a chip in her brain so they could communicate with her. She claims that she was chosen to warn mankind about Nibiru. She said that it would enter our solar system and make a flyby of Earth in 2003, and the Earth would undergo a pole shift and would destroy most of humanity. She claimed that Hale-Bopp wasn't really a comet. She said it didn't exist. She said Hale-Bopp didn't exist in 1997. She was saying that it was a star and it would not come any closer. Of course, she was wrong about that. She said that that was a lie to distract people from the arrival of Planet X. When Hale-Bopp was observed, she removed the first two sentences of her statement. She told her followers to kill their animals, as she did hers. And when Planet X was a no-show, she claimed it was a lie to fool the establishment. And she refused to disclose the new date, saying that it would give those in power a chance to declare martial law. She claimed that she killed her dog because it was acting aggressive. After her, there's many people who also took up her ideas. I'm sure you guys know many of them. There was a Japanese cult called Panawave, Monster Masters, and over the years it has just grown and grown. The amount of people who are profiting from this right now has grown tremendously. So despite the dates passing, there are many websites and channels dedicated to claiming that Nibiru is inbound. Another claim is that the South Pole telescope was built to track Nibiru, but the South Pole telescope is a radio telescope and it cannot take optical images. That picture that everybody always is showing that's supposed to show Nibiru, the guy who put that out came out and admitted that he photoshopped that picture. And it was, I think it was 2012, I think it was Nibiru shock. And he admitted that he lied, and people still ignore it. They don't care. According to the website, the telescope is designed for observation in the microwave, millimeter wave, and sub-millimeter wave regions of the electromagnetic spectrum, with the particular design of measuring the faint, diffuse emission from the cosmic microwave background. So these guys have been wrong over and over again, year after year after year after year. But ever since, first Nancy did it in 2003, but with the research of David Mead, aka Jerry Grinnell, we found out that there are people who have been saying this since before her, since the year 2000 for him, and many years all the way up until now. Every year is supposed to be the year. Another claim made by the Christian fearmongers is that Nibiru is wormwood in the form of Revelation. From Revelation. So I want to explore the Bible and see if that claim is actually supported. Wormwood is mentioned several times in the Bible, though the doomsayers who believe wormwood is Nibiru only recite the verse in Revelations. Wormwood means a state or source of bitterness or grief, and it was a root. In Deuteronomy 29:18, lest there be among you a man or woman or family or tribe whose heart turns away this day from Yahweh or God to go serve the gods of those nations, lest there be among you a root that bears gall and wormwood. Jeremiah 23:15. Therefore thus say Yahweh, of armies concerning the prophets, behold, I will feed them wormwood and make them drink the water of gall. For from the prophets of Jerusalem it is ungodliness gone forth into all of the land. In Lamentations 3:15, he has filled me with bitterness, he has sated me with wormwood. Lamentations 3:19, remember my affliction and my misery, the wormwood and the gall. In Amos 5:7, you will turn justice to wormwood and cast down the righteousness to the earth. Amos 6:12, shall horses run upon the rock? Will one plow with their oxen? That ye have turned justice into gall, and the fruit of righteousness into wormwood. So from this, we know what wormwood means. It means bitter. It means tainted, in a way. So let's explore the Bible for verses about water. Water, living water, and the fountain of living water is mentioned many times in the Bible. It is a symbol of Jesus Christ and his teachings. As water is essential to sustain physical life, the Savior and his teachings, living water, are essential for eternal life. So I have a couple verses here. With joy shall ye drink water out of the wells of salvation. That's Isaiah 12:3. Jeremiah 2:13. They have forsaken me, the fountain of the living water. Whosoever drinketh the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. That's John 4:6. And John 7:37. If a man thirst, let him come into me and drink. The book of Revelation is an account of visions in symbolic and allegorical language and are not taken as literal descriptions. There were 7 seals, 7 churches, and 7 angels, each blowing a trumpet. In order to understand the allegory, you must connect them. Wormwood is mentioned with the 3rd angel. So in order to understand what it means, you must know what Jesus said about the 3rd church. Revelations 1:10-11. I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice, as of a trumpet, saying, I am the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. And what thou seest, write in a book, and send it to the 7 churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, and unto Smyrna, and unto Pergamos, and unto Thyatira, and unto Sardis, and unto Philadelphia, and unto Laodicea. I'm guessing that's how that's pronounced. From this verse, we know that the 3rd church is Pergamos. So let's see what was said to the church of Pergamos, and then we'll explore the history of the church. In Revelations 2:12-17, to the angel of the church in Pergamum write, these are the words of him who has the sharp double-edged sword. I know where you live, where Satan has his throne. Yet you remain true to my name. You did not renounce me. You did not renounce your faith in me, not even in the days of Antipas, my faithful witness, who was put to death in your city where Satan lives. Nevertheless, I have a few things against you. There are some among you who hold the teachings of Balaam, who taught Balak to entice the Israelites to sin, so that they ate food sacrificed to idols and committed sexual immorality. Likewise, you also have those who hold the teachings of the Nicolaitans. Repent, therefore, otherwise I will soon come to you and will fight against them with the sword of my mouth. Whoever has ears, let them hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who is victorious, I will give some of the hidden manna. I will also give that person a white stone with a new name written on it, known only to the one who receives it. So let's talk a little bit about the history of Pergamum, the compromising church. Pergamum had served as the capital of the Roman province of Asia Minor for over 25 years and was an important religious center for a number of pagan cults. It was the first city in Asia to build a temple to Caesar, and it became the capital of the cult of Caesar worship. Of Pergamum, and ancient writers said it was given to idolatry more than all of Asia. The book of Acts makes no mention of the founding of the church. According to Acts 6:7-8, Paul passed through the region of Mysia, where Pergamum was located, on his second missionary journey, but there is no record that Paul either preached the gospel or founded a church there during that time. Most likely, Paul founded this church during his ministry at Ephesus, when the gospel was preached throughout Asia. Many writers have noted that Pergamum comes from the Greek word gamos, that means marriage. This letter pictures a church married to the world rather than to Christ. The church of Pergamum was surrounded by pagan culture, just as we are surrounded by an increasingly godless culture. Now let's talk a little bit about Constantine. Constantine's Christianity is the new compromising church. In my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, like I said, some may not agree with me, but Constantine the Great was an emperor who made Christianity the official religion of Rome because of a vision he had before battle in 312 AD. He claimed he saw a flaming cross in the sky bearing the words, "In this sign thou shalt conquer." He told people this was a sign from Jesus. Jesus was all about peace, so I don't believe this. Though he is credited with ending the persecution of Christians and eventually converted, his true beliefs are still being questioned. After unifying the Roman Empire and signing the Edict of Milan, ensuring all could worship the God of their choosing without fear, Constantine rebuilt his seat of power in a largely Christian Byzantium, which was renamed Constantinople. There is no doubt that Constantine's rule ensured Christianity's progress, but is the Christianity you practice today the same as the early true Christianity that was practiced by the apostles after the death of Jesus? No, it is not. In 325 AD, Constantine held the first of meetings the Christian churches called the Council of Nicaea, where the leaders of the church were to find common ground on many different teachings. It was decided that Jesus was God and the Trinity was established. They decided what teachings and gospels were to be taught and burned or buried the rest. The Council of Nicaea established the equality of the Father and the Son and documented this in this creed. Christianity became the religion of the Roman Empire, an empire where many religions were practiced. These religions were called paganism. Paganism is commonly used to refer to various largely unconnected religions from the time period. Christianity was a minority religion during much of the Roman Empire, as the early Christians were persecuted during that time. When Constantine converted to Christianity, it became the dominant religion in the Roman Empire. Already under the reign of Constantine, Christian heretics had been persecuted. Beginning in the late 14th century, the ancient pagan religions were actively suppressed. In the view of many historians, the Constantinian shift turned Christianity from persecuted religion into one capable of persecution and sometimes eager to persecute. There are a number of examples of forced conversion throughout the history of Christianity. During the Roman Empire in the Middle Ages, inquisitions in Spain, and campaigns by Russian rulers. In order to appease pagans and make the conversion easier, Christianity began to adopt pagan practices and rituals. The pagan temples were converted into churches, and Christian art and statues were placed there, but they were still pagan. Fearing persecution, the pagans converted, but most still practiced their faith in secret. The image of Jesus was created, and Mary was deified. Statues were erected and worshipped. This was the beginning of idolatry. By the very definition, bowing, praising, and adoring a statue of Mary is blatant idolatry, and the Bible condemns it in every form. In Exodus 20, verse 4 to 5. In Exodus 20, verse 4, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven images or likeness of anything that is in the heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Pagans were used to their symbols and deities, so they began to do it with Christianity. Many of these new converts just labeled their idols with Christian names, even though God is clearly against idols. Let's say the pictures of Jesus. There are paintings and all different types of statues of Jesus, but who is that man? That's not Jesus. Or better yet, who are the men? There are many versions of Jesus that it's obviously not Jesus. The church then descended into apostasy. The priests began to embrace the robes and the ceremonies that were part of the pagan religions and in place of the teachings of Jesus. They began to teach men superstitions and traditions. Instead of Christians converting pagans, the pagans converted Christians. About 300 years after Christ, the day of rest, the Sabbath, was changed to the more popular Roman Sunday. Satan, through sun worship, began to creep into the church. A counterfeit holy day was instituted in the honor of the sun god. A birthday for Jesus, which is not supported by the Bible, was instituted on the 25th of December, which is in fact pagan sun worship. The winter solstice happens on the 21st, and the sun is born again on the 25th. Every year when the cold season began, the people believed their sun god was leaving them. They came to learn that his lowest dip on the horizon came around the 21st and gradual return on the 25th. There was a festival held, they feasted, drank, and danced. As the years passed, more pagan practices were adopted. The tree, the Yule log, the mistletoe, etc., all pagan. They use the worship of a goddess for Easter, and they use that as the day, as the resurrection of Christ. For one thing, one that it could be is Ishtar, but there's also a German form as well. Ishtar was the goddess of reproduction. The pagans went up to mountainside early Sunday morning and worshiped the goddess as the sun was rising in the east. Eggs and rabbits were the symbols used in the worship of Ishtar to represent fertility. There are some people who think that it is either this one or the one from German times. There is a German form of Easter as well. So let's get back to wormwood. What I believe the true meaning of wormwood. So let's just have a look at one more scripture. Well, the scripture that everybody is talking about wormwood. Revelations 8:10-11. And the third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as if it was a lamp, and it fell upon a third of the rivers, and upon the fountain of the waters. And the name of the star is Wormwood, and the third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. When you read passages like that, bear in mind that back then the leading idea about the planets were that they were embedded in crystalline spheres that spin around the earth, and that the stars were also embedded, and that the span around earth was one day and the sun was as well. They did not know about asteroids. They thought that meteorites came from volcanoes or tornadoes and strong winds blown into the air. They thought that comets were an atmospheric phenomenon. They had no idea about modern astronomy at all. So when people are saying that wormwood is an asteroid, we must remember that back then they didn't even know what these things were. They thought that the earth was flat. They thought that everything was just embedded, and that's what they thought, that everything, the earth was the center of everything. So wormwood means bitter. Water means the teachings of Christ, the gospel. This is what I believe. The third church was Pergamos, the compromising church. From this, we can surmise that the word became bitter because of compromise, apostasy, and idolatry. The same things that happened during the time of Pergamos happened during the time of Constantine, when the church began to compromise, and it still is today, when they began to persecute as they had been persecuted. And compromise, as the Bible is very clear about not worshiping other idols or taking upon other doctrines or whatever. The waters, meaning the gospel, became bitter. The teachings became bitter. More than 2 billion people in the world are Christians. That is a third of God's children. His rivers and waters became bitter. God warned us not to adopt the practices of the world because it would produce wormwood. God was concerned that if the children of Israel began to compromise with paganism, it would bring a root of bitterness in the church. Under the rule of Constantine, that which was meant to be pure was made bitter. He created religion that Jesus would not recognize. In Timothy 4:1-3, now the Spirit seeketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devil, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron, forbidding to marry and commanding to abstain from meats which God has created to receive with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. In 2 Timothy 4:3, For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap themselves teachers having itching ears. Multitudes of Christians have accepted these compromises and apostasy. Satan has developed a counterfeit religion which was intended to attract worship away from the true God. The third star that fell from heaven was Lucifer. He and a third of the angels. The great star has fallen into the water and turned it bitter. He is a liar and a deceiver, and many are deceived. These people and their preachers do not intend to be evil, for a deceived person does not know that he's being deceived. Another Jesus has indeed been presented to humanity. Who is the man in your paintings? And how do you think Jesus feels about being portrayed as something he is not? The practices of today's churches are not the same as the early church. Beware of false prophets. Don't drink the wormwood. There has been a purposeful mixing of pagan practices, idolatry, apostasy, compromise, and totally false concepts of God, Jesus, and his message. It has caused enormous confusion and a great falling away, as the Bible speaks of. The formation of the Roman Catholic Church and then the latter appearance of dozens of Orthodox churches has brought about conflicting denominations, doctrines, creeds, and practices, all supposedly Christian, yet none are even remotely similar to the Christianity that the apostles followed after Jesus' death. Ask yourself, is this the world and religion that Jesus wanted? How many of your holidays and teachings and images and rituals and practices are pagan? Do you think that Jesus wanted this patriarchal society of war and hate, ignoring the poor? How can this country be a predominantly Christian nation when we don't care about the poor? Now, not everyone, because there are many of us out here who do our best to help people in need. But overall, people don't care about the poor and the hungry, and those were the people that Jesus advocated for. That's what he did. How many of you judge others but don't truly know what teachings that you're following? How many of you know that? The world is full of false teachers, especially in the Nibiru community. You're being taught apostasy by professed Christians, and you are drinking the wormwood. You know that hard to swallow doctrine you're being taught, that you're meant to be a god, or that the Anunnaki created us as a slave race and are coming back with Nibiru? Do you believe aliens are coming to save you? The Zetas, perhaps? Do you believe that? And I know there are many, many, many more. But the point is, do you know what these false prophets are teaching you? Do you know? There will be false prophets among the people, just as there will be false prophets among you. In 2 Peter. Matthew 7:15, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. Nibiru is not wormwood. And like I said, many people won't agree with this, but for me, it makes a lot of sense. And I will say that after studying history and religion for this long, I truly believe that Christianity and Abrahamic religions, the monotheistic religions, were created to indoctrinate people. I do not think that all truth is in one book, because if you search the history, you know that if it was indeed supposed to be guided by God, then why did men come together to decide what to tell us? That is the point. Listening to these people and calling yourself a Christian makes you a hypocrite. And you're drinking the wormwood. That is happening with all these people, all these Christians, and preaching, screaming doom at you all the time. That is the wormwood. That is what's making everything bitter. I have never in my life seen so many mean and hateful religious people than I see in the Nibiru community. The Bible tells you what wormwood is. It is not literal, as most of the Bible is not. It's allegorical. It is a parable that must be deciphered. I know you listen to some of the words of these so-called Christians who obviously have fallen away, and your face looks like you just bit a lemon. You listen to some of this stuff and you're like, that's bitter. That's the bitterness of the wormwood. Their words are pure wormwood. They are bitter. These men that are preaching to you about Nibiru, have you noticed how bitter they are? How mean they are? Where does Jesus come in this? Where does your religion come in to this? If you're a Christian, tell me in the comments where your religion comes in with Nibiru. Nibiru is not in the Bible. It's not. Since what they're teaching is bitter, they are bitter, and it's making you bitter. You are becoming bitter to your fellow Christians who are only trying to warn you that you're drinking the wormwood. You're drinking it. You know, I've been doing this now since, like I said, last year. I started doing the researching and helping with the debunking in about like June, I think, May or June, and over again, we have been treated like crap. We are trolled. We receive death threats. We're treated horribly, all because we're trying to warn people about these false prophets, because that's what they are. And most of the people who are following the Nibiru are religious. That is something that I have seen that is very common in doomsday themes. These are people who are very, very religious. Don't let these people take advantage of you. Research what they say. Get a second opinion and a third opinion. Wormwood is not coming. Wormwood has happened. It's here already. It is not going to fall out of the sky. It is not going to cause a pole shift. It's not going to destroy a third of humanity. It's not doing that. The great star has already fallen. And he has turned the religion of a man so pure and noble into their own personal counterfeit Christianity. They have turned the fountains of the living waters bitter. In closing, I just like to say, don't drink the wormwood. Have a great day.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me.